Hello, I am back-ish. I had planned to do a lot in December. I had my daughter for most of it, and if you've had a 3-year-old around, you realize that you can have stuff, but that doesn't mean you can actually get to the stuff. So I have a whole bunch of backlog stuff I'll be getting to later, as well as my December wrap-up. But for now, I wanted to do something very quick, give a little bit of look into my reading of the weird books of 2025 that I read. I read a lot in 2025. It was a whole thing, but I read 3 weird books. It's very quick. Just gonna talk a little bit about them. Let's start with My Date with an Ampersand by Nicole Parker. I read this one because everyone else was reading inanimate object books and I want to join in on the fun. I have a whole review about it, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but it was odd and strange. And the visuals that my brain came out with were more horror, less erotic steam. And there is steam, but it's an interesting kind of steam. We'll put it that way. I found it fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was well done in the kooky way of, inanimate objects. And I found it to be a 4-star, which is saying something, I think. So that one was easy. I liked it. I was confused about my brain at points, but I liked it. And then we're going to discuss Hot Gooey Hex, part of a new series by Sammy Jackson, and I'm discussing this one because basically she creates a man from bread. I don't understand, and I don't get it, but I know I enjoyed it. I said it needed another 25 pages to really get a 4-star instead of the 3 that I gave, but it had an idea of something fun. It just felt a little bit more like a skeleton without any clothes on, according to my review, because the magic was a little bit mystical and I still wanted a little bit more since this young woman inherited this bakery shop and it's a magical one and all this weird stuff is happening and this town is a little strange. It reminded me a little bit of that Frosty movie, Hot Frosty I think was the name of it, from Netflix that everyone's talked about. I know that Jamie French and Pushing Up Roses have. I'll link to those below. But it gave that same kind of vibe, right? Where something magical comes to life and they make your life so much easier and you're doing so much more things, and it was fun. And I didn't talk about it that much, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars only because I felt like it needed a little bit more fine-tuning. I like little oddball things, right? I mean, I like odd, weird things. I laughed a lot at this one because it was just, there was animals and a bakery, and you know me, I'm easy. And then the other one that I want to talk about is High Times in the Low Parliament. I read this in June. I did not mean for it to be for Pride Month. I just picked it because it was short. It was a little over 4.5 hours of an audiobook because I like to try out different things, different books. I gave it 2 stars, and that is entirely because it was hard to follow. The characters spent so often being high that you lost the funness and the enjoyment of the story, because it's supposed to be a twofold story. One is about the Parliament and how, people keep dying and blah, 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 blah. And then you also have the other side of it where it's the fairy side and there's all this back and forth and there's battles. And again, the characters are high most of the time, which I mean, high times, I get that part. But I needed a little bit more. I needed some oomph. And I felt like it was really missing that. And I didn't care about the characters because there was nothing to grasp onto. I couldn't hold them and go oh, okay, this is why you are this way, or oh, this makes the reason for your decision. It was a very low priority disappointment. I almost put this on the disappointment list, but I did not, because I felt like this one was just so weird. And, there was the little fairy and the main character were getting high and they were stoned throughout most of the Parliament, but they're supposed to be helping fix these big problems. And I got the look of it because it reminded me a lot, if you've ever watched some of the British political things, when they are in the halls and they're talking about things and da 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 da. I watched it occasionally as an American, but I could follow it fairly well. And it kind of gives that feeling. There's no molding clay to make a story out of it, basically. And that's unfortunate because I really wanted to like it. And those are literally the 3 weirdest books I read. I read lots of books. There are many lists coming out probably the next couple months. Me being me, I couldn't just pick random ones. And I read 163 books or so last year, so I have a bit of a hard time balancing all the ones where I want them to go. So I moved them into different categories. The next one up should be the worst disappointments, because that one was just, I have notes on them because I am me. And then after that, I'll kind of break it down a little bit more. Like the most fun will be coming up soon. And then we'll get down to the best and the worst and stuff like that, because I want to enjoy it. And I have those broken down into fantasy and not fantasy, because I read over 75 books in fantasy last year. So I felt it fit more fair to the other books to move them over there. So we'll be discussing that later. I want to know, what was the weirdest book you read? Please comment, because I like reading weird books. Right now I'm reading Bewitched by the Light. That's an odd one. That's going in the monster romance ones I'm going to be talking about with my short videos soon. And we'll see how 2026 goes so far. Most of the month I've actually been having fun. Of course, it's only January 13th, so bye.